Hello and Assalamu alaikum everyone. I am Kashif Kamran and I welcome you all to the Advanced Audit and Assurance Practice to Pass webinar for June 2021 exam being organized by ACCA Pakistan, and today is the day 5 and the final day. Just before starting on with the proceeding of the final day of the webinar, do let me know that my voice is clear and all of you can hear me. Okay, that is great if my voice is getting through to all of you and it's loud and clear. Now, obviously, this is the final day, a very important day. We're not just focusing on the main agenda for the final day, but I will keep some 30 minutes in the end of the webinar to guide you about the tips and techniques which will really be beneficial for you to pass the AAA paper in the first attempt. So that is very, very important. And let's first start on with the proceeding for day 5 and look at the agenda. Now, day 5, the final day today, I'll be focusing on audit report, and that's the agenda for the final day. Now, obviously, audit report is an important topic, and I will be informing you of the importance of this topic as I start with my day 5 proceedings. So let's start on with day 5 and let's start on with audit report. Okay, so day 5, audit report. Now, you all know that audit report is such an important topic when it comes to the AAA paper. In the section B, one of the question has to be on audit report. Now, examiner used to consistently ask the audit report question in the question number 2 since the September 2018 exams. But in the last couple of exam settings, particularly in 2020, examiner has been very varied of the position of the audit report question. Sometime it is in the question 2 or sometime it's in the question 3. But irrespective of the positioning, one of the question in section B has to be from audit report, just like the question number 1. The question number 1 has to be from risk, whether it is an audit risk, it is a risk of material misstatement, or it is a business risk. Just like that, one of the question in section B has to be from audit report. I hope that is clear to all of you, that how important, how significant this topic is when it comes to your success in the AAA paper. Okay, let's start on with the journey. Let me take on my Word file and to guide you about this topic, we are starting today. So the final day today, 5th day, the 1st of May, and let's see what is the objective in store for the 5th and final day. The objective of this 5th and final day, so that you exactly know what will be coming your way in the next 3 hours and you can plan the 3 hours in effectively. The first objective today is to focus on the audit report without any doubts and its importance to the AAA paper. And towards the end of my day 5 and the final day, I will be focusing on the tips and techniques which will be really important for all of you to pass the AAA paper. So tips and techniques being the final day for the AAA June 2021 exams. So that will be the focus point towards the end of the day today. So that's the journey. Let's start on first with the audit report. Now, first of all, if I start with audit report as a fundamental topic and guide you about its importance and significance to exam paper, how can you prepare yourself in an effective manner for audit report? Now, my previous webinars, first of all, the March 21 webinar, you can see the hyperlink. My December 20 webinar, you can see the hyperlink. And my September 19 webinar, you can see the hyperlink. These are the 3 good ones, which I would recommend all of you to spend time on. So 3 hours from March 21, 3 hours from December 20, 3 hours from September 19, that's a total of 9 hours. And 3 hours from the June 20 webinar you are currently watching. So that makes the total 12 hours. And in 12 hours, you have an excellent knowledge and an excellent preparation for taking on the audit report question in the exam paper. In this 12 hours, you will get to know every diversity which exists in the audit report topic in the AAA paper. So please ensure that you take time out and you make a timetable of watching the previous webinars so that you have exactly the knowledge which is needed for attempting a question on audit report. Now, beside the previous webinars, let's look at the agenda. The article. There are two articles which I will be reinforcing today, and I would be asking all of you to prepare them over the next 1 month before your exams. One is an exam technique article, part 5, and I will be showing you the reason for this article, why you should read down this article. And there is a second article, which is audit report to those charged with governance. And what is the purpose of this article? I will be guiding you shortly. So two articles recommendable, and these two articles are available in your handout sections. Then obviously we need to look at the examiner do's and don'ts, as we do look at them every day. Two questions. The December 18 question number 2, that's on the practice platform, and then the June 19 question number 2 on the practice platform. So you have an idea and a reaffirmative of how you take on the computer based exams for the AAA paper. So two questions will come today: December 18 question number 2 and June 19 question number 2. And as your home assignments, you will complete all the questions which I will do in the session today, and you will watch the previous recommended webinars. So that's the agenda screen in front of you for day 5. Okay, now let's start on with the journey, and let's see what we need to discuss before we come to the past papers. Now there are two articles which you can see on the screen which I have recommended to you, and the reason for that is very important. First of all, the recommended articles you need to read is for the sake of knowledge of this topic, which is very, very important. And a lot of times the student don't have the right knowledge needed for this topic. Now, the first article, which is exam technique article, you need to understand this exam technique article, which is part 5, and the title of part 5 is audit report. This is a very important article because this tells you about the journal misconceptions the student have about audit report. So examiner has covered the journal misconceptions in this article and has provided mitigation to these journal misconceptions. So this article will really be good for all of you if you have misconceptions about audit report. So if you read through this article, you will be getting the mitigation to your journal misconceptions you have about audit report. Further, this article will also guide you about exam techniques, that how you should write a good reporting answer, how to write a good answer on audit report. So this is a wonderful article which you should be reading and going through. The second article is more knowledge-based article, which is the audit report to those charged with governance, TCWG, right? This is a wonderful article because it provides you knowledge. And this article provides you knowledge about what sort of matters are communicated to those charged with governance at the completion stage of audit. What sort of matters are communicated to those charged with governance at the completion stage of audit by the auditor? What is the timing of communication? And how are these matters communicated? So all you need to know about the communication between the auditor and those charged with governance, you will get to know this from this particular article. So two articles and the purpose of the two articles, right? That why they have been recommended to you to read. Now, you need to understand that when we look at the section B of the paper, right? In the section B, one of the question will be from syllabus area E. which is the one we are doing currently. So one of the question in section B will be from syllabus area E, which includes, you need to be very clear about syllabus area E, which includes the following. The syllabus area E of your paper looks after completion and reporting stage of the audit, completion and the reporting stage. So a lot of time the students just believe that one of the question in the section B will be from the reporting stage. No, one of the question in section B will be from syllabus area E, and the syllabus area E consists of not just the reporting stage but also the completion stage. So when you look at a reporting question in section B, the question can consist of, so the question can consist of the following. The question can consist of the following. Number one, the question can consist of, because it's a question on a completion stage, so it can also consist of examiner asking you ethical, professional and quality control issues arising during audit or towards the completion of the audit. So if you've seen the past papers, a lot of time in the section B, in a completion question, you do find a reoccurrence of ethical, professional and quality control issues identified by the manager, by the audit manager, while he was conducting a review, of the working papers. Secondly, a question on going concern is very common, because going concern is a completion stage activity. So a couple of times in the past papers, you have seen a question coming on going concern. Moreover, you must have seen a question on audit evidence, because audit evidence is when the manager reviews the working paper. Now, we were doing this audit evidence on day 4. I hope you remember that, of the webinar yesterday. And this particular question on audit evidence comes at the stage of completion, because the manager is performing a review of the working paper, and that's where a question on audit evidence comes in. And the last question, which comes from completion and reporting stage itself, is a question on audit report, where the examiner asks you different types of questions on audit report. The examiner can ask you a critical appraisal of the audit report, which we will do today, the critical appraisal of audit report. Or the examiner can ask you, sorry, I just missed one thing out, audit evidence, or the examiner can ask you communication to those charged with governance. The examiner can ask you a question on communication to those charged with governance, because this communication also takes place at the completion stage of the audit. And there is an article on this, right? Audit report to those charged with governance. And finally, the examiner can ask you the audit report question, which consists of the critical appraisal of the report, or which contains questions where the examiner asks you to explain the matters and the impact on the audit report. Matters and the impact on the audit opinion, or matters and the impact on the audit report, etc. So this is quite a diversified topic when you look at the syllabus area E. I hope you're all clear on it. So try to understand that one of the question in section B will be from syllabus area E. And I hope you're all clear with the breakdown of the topics which comes under the syllabus area E at the completion stage and at the reporting stage. So when you look at the past papers, you will find questions on going concern, you will find questions on audit evidence, you will find questions on communication to those charged with governance, you will find questions on audit report, you will even find questions on professional and quality control issues in the section B. So that's how things have been since September 18 exams up to the March 2021 exams. Is everyone clear with the perspective of section B and one of the question coming from syllabus area E? If you can respond to my question. Are you clear enough on this? Okay, that's great. Now let's take the step ahead. Now you need to watch my previous webinars, because if you watch them, you will have a very good control on the syllabus area E, right? I have recommended you to watch 3 previous webinars. I hope you got them from my presentation at the start. I recommended to watch 3 previous webinars plus the June 2021. So that's a total of 12 hours. So these 12 hours will make you perfect on syllabus area E. Perfect on syllabus area E. So that's not much, right? 12 hours. I hope you can give 12 hours. That's not a big number of hours I am asking you. 12 hours and you're good enough on syllabus area E and you can score good marks. Now let's see what I have to discuss particularly today from such a big syllabus area. Now today I'll be focusing on three very important things. First, I'll be focusing on going concern. So what will be my focus in June 21 webinar? In the June 21 webinar, I'll be focusing on going concern. I'll be focusing on a critical appraisal of the audit report, a critical appraisal of audit report, and I'll be focusing on communication of matters to those charged with governance. So I'll be looking at these three aspects in my webinar today from the questions. For the going concern, I'll be looking at the December 18 question, December 18 question number 2. And for the critical appraisal of the report, I'll be looking at the March, June 19 question number 2A. And for the communication of matters to those charged with governance, I'll be looking at the March, June 19 question number 2B. So that's what we have in store today. Let's start the journey one by one and understand the major misconceptions the student have about audit report. Okay, now the next step. First, you need to understand something very, very important. That when you are preparing for the topic audit report, all of you should be familiar with the new audit report. And the new audit report was introduced since September 16 exams. So it's not new anymore, but still the student refers them as a new audit report, right? So the new audit report was introduced since September 16 exams in the AA paper and the AAA paper. You should know the format of the report. You should know the format of the report. You should know the order of the paragraphs in the report. You should know the language of the report, because this will really help you with a question which comes on critical appraisal. So if you want to be good on a question, critical appraisal of the report, you should know the report. How would you do the critical appraisal of the report if you don't know the report? If the examiner asks you to identify weaknesses in the report given in the exam paper, how would you identify weaknesses? Tell me. If you have no idea about the format of the report, what comes first, what comes second, you have no idea that opinion comes first and basis of opinion comes after. If you have no idea about that, how would you criticize the report? And the language of the report, what exactly you write in a opinion paragraph, what exactly you write in a basis of opinion paragraph, and so on and so forth. So should you have an idea about the new audit report and the format of the report and the structure of the report? How? From where? What's the source? What's the source of this? The source of this is so simple. See this. You go to the articles. Can you all see the articles from the ACCA website? This is the ACCA website here where you have the advanced audit and assurance technical articles. I hope all of you can see this, right? So in the technical articles, you go down, which is already in the handout section of your webinar. You go down the technical articles. Can you find the article number 5, exam technique article part 5, which I have recommended all of you to read? Can you all see this? See this? Exam technique article part 5 audit reporting. Can you all see this? Right? So I click on this article, exam technique article part 5 audit reporting. Click on this and you open up the article, exam technique article part 5 audit reporting. Now, in this article, when you are reading this article, go down, 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 and go to the end of the article. At the end of the article, examiner has provided you with a exam focus paragraph. Can all of you see this exam focus paragraph here? And the examiner has given you the exam focus, that how this topic will come in exam paper. And he has mentioned that the student should know the report. Can you see the examiner has written over here? If I can just show you, view an example of a real audit report. Is the examiner giving you a hyperlink? View the example of an audit report here. Can you all see this in the exam focus, everyone? Right? So you click on this, view an example of the real audit report. You click on this. Just give me 1 minute. You click on this, view an example of a real audit report, and the real audit report will open. See, the real audit report has opened. Examiner has given you a real audit report of a company known as Santander, right? So they have given you an audit report of a company known as Santander. You can see the annual report for 2017. Now, on the page number 7, you go down page number 2, page number 3, page number 4, page number 5. On the page number 5, you can see the auditor's report. Can all of you see the page number 5 on your screen, auditor's report? Right? So on page number 5, you see the auditor report, and from page number 6 is a blank page, and page number 7, the auditor report start. Can all of you see the auditor's report? So the first paragraph in the audit report is opinion, then it's the basis of opinion, then it's the key audit matter because it's a listed company, key audit matters. And then on the page number 8, you have all the key audit matters. On the page number 9, you have the key audit matters. So it's a long list of key audit matters. And then on the page number 10, you also have the key audit matters. Page number 11, you still have the key audit matters. So that shows how many key audit matters can be there in a larger audit client. And then on the page number 12, you still have the key audit matters. Page number 13, you have the key audit matters. Page number 14, you have the key audit matters. Page number 15, you have the key audit matters. And on the page number 16, you find the other matters, other information paragraph. So other matters are coming first, then the other information paragraph is coming after. Finally, you see the responsibilities of the management and the auditor. And then you go down, auditor's responsibility. And then you go down, down, down. You find other paragraphs of the audit report. And finally, you find the signature of PricewaterhouseCoopers. Now, take a time, read the report. Because if you read the report, you exactly know the order of the report. Which paragraph comes first, which comes second, which comes third, which comes fourth, which comes fifth. How you write a key audit matter, how you explain a key audit matter, or you exactly know the language of the auditor. So if you read this report, can you able to solve a question on the critical appraisal? Can you find the flaws in the audit report given in the exam paper? So if the examiner gives you a very haphazard report in the exam paper, will you be able to find the flaws in the haphazard report given by the examiner? That what are mistakes, everyone? So will you take time out reading this report, everyone? So everyone got an idea how to reach this report? So please ensure that you read the report given by the examiner. Read the audit report given by examiner in the exam technique article, part 5, in the paragraph exam focus, in the paragraph exam focus. So you click on that hyperlink and you reach the report, right? So that's where you can be good on audit report and the language of the audit report and the format of the audit report and the language of the audit report. So if you want to know the format, if you want to know the language, what is the language used in the audit report, you want to know the order of the paragraphs, then all is there given by the examiner. So that's one thing, right? And this will help you with a question which comes on the exam paper, which is known as critical appraisal. So if you know the language, if you know the order, if you know the format of the audit report, you can easily solve a question on critical appraisal. You can easily solve a question on critical appraisal. Yes, and you can also read the ICI report which I've provided you. That's also fine. If someone of you have my ICI report, which I've even shared in the previous webinars, and you can get hold of that ICI report from the previous webinars, then that's also equally good, right? So ICI report or this report, both are equally good, right? So the format of the audit report, you can easily solve a question on critical appraisal, right? That's how you go down with critical appraisal, right? Now, try to understand when a question comes on critical appraisal, right? What is exactly the examiner demanding from you? What is exactly the examiner asking from you? Just let me show you that. If you look at the March June 19 exams. You look at the March June 2019 exams, the question number 2A. So you get the benefit of reading the examiner report, because some of you might still have a question, why should I read the audit report? What's the benefit? Let me show you the benefit. You look at the March June 19 question number 2A, which I'm just putting in front of your screen now for in the next 1 minute. You open up this exam paper, and this is the exam paper. Can all of you see the question number 2A, March June 19 in front of you? Question number 2A in front of your screen, everyone? Question number 2A, right, of the March June 19 exams in front of your screen, right? Now the examiner has given you a report. You can see the report given by the examiner, independent auditor report to shareholder. There is a basis for opinion, there is an opinion, there is a material uncertainty paragraph, there is another information paragraph. So examiner has given you an extract of the report, right? Examiner will never give you a full report, right? Examiner will never give you a full report. Examiner will only give you an extract of the report, right? So this extract of the report is given by the examiner, and see what the examiner wants you to do. Examiner wants you to critically appraise the extracts, only the extracts, right, from the draft audit report for the year ended 31st of March 2009. Note, you are not required to redraft the extracts. You only need to find the weaknesses in the report. You are not required to redraft the extracts from the report, and the marks are 10. Now you copy this question and you bring it to the Word file. This is the requirement. Critically appraise the extract of the draft audit report, and you are not required to redraft the report. Now try to understand what exactly is the examiner asking in this question to you. First of all, examiner is asking you to critically appraise. That's number one. The extract. So are you just criticizing the extract given by the examiner? Are you just keeping your criticism within the extract given by the examiner? Is everyone clear on that? So extract means the boundary, right? So will you just keep your criticism within the extracts or out of the extracts? So you will find the criticism within the extracts, right, given by the examiner. Critically appraise the extract. So is extract the boundaries? So extract is the boundary, right? And within the boundary, you will find the critical appraisal from the draft audit report. You are not required to redraft the extracts. So will you redraft the extracts? No, you will just tell the problem. You will just tell the issue. So you are not required to draft the extracts. That's very important. Now, how many marks we have? We have 10 marks. And for 10 marks, we need to do a critical appraisal. Now, what does critical appraisal means? How you go about doing the critical appraisal? How can you gain 10 marks? What's the marking scheme? Let me show you that. Now, when you are doing a critical appraisal of the audit report, should you know the format and order of the report? For example, if I can show you this report for a minute before I tell you what exactly critical appraisal means, look at this report given by the examiner. In this report, the basis of opinion paragraph is coming first, and the opinion paragraph is coming after. Is that the right format of the report? Is that the right structure of the report? No. Right? How would you know the no? You know the no because you must have read the right report, right? You know that in the right report, the opinion comes first, followed by the basis. Am I right? So how would you know the problems? How would you know the weaknesses in the report? How would you criticize the weaknesses in the report? Only when you know the right report. So if any student doesn't know the right report, will you read the right report before attempting a question on critical appraisal, everyone? Do you read the right report before attempting a question on critical appraisal? Yes. Because if you don't know the right report, how would you do the critical appraisal? How would you do the critical appraisal? Now let me give you an answer. What does critical appraisal means? Okay, there is a document which you can search on the Google. You go to the Google and you write on the Google, read the mind of the AAA examiner, right? You go to the Google and on the Google you write, read the mind of the AAA examiner, and you will find a PDF document by the name of read the mind of the AAA examiner, right? I have taken that article in front of your screen now. In this article of the examiner, Read the Mind of Marker, the examiner is telling us what is literally the meaning of critical appraisal. Can all of you see this examiner defining you what critically appraisal means here? Can all of you see this? See, what is the examiner telling you? Critically appraise means consider each piece of information and assess whether it is correct or incorrect, right? So examiner is giving you the right definition here. Examiner is saying critical appraisal means that you need to, just give me 1 minute if I can put it in a proper manner for you. So when you get this handout at the end of the webinar, you can just take a print out of this and this becomes perfect preparation platform for all of you. So just 1 minute. If we can just put it in a good order. So that's the first bullet. What does critical appraisal means literally? Okay, let me bring this to the next page. Okay. Critical appraisal means consider each piece of information and assess whether it is correct or not. Is everyone clear with the definition? So have we assessed the first piece of information that the opinion should come first and the basis should come after? Was that incorrect in the report? Because in the report, the basis was coming first and the opinion was coming after, right? So critically appraise means consider each piece of information and assess whether it is correct or not. Look at the next definition of the critical appraisal. Go back to the same article of the examiner and come here. And I will give you 1 minute to read it. See this. Can you just read the para 1 and para 2 in 2 minutes and tell me you are ready? Can you just read the para 1 and para 2 coming in front of your screen and be prepared to understand what exactly critical appraisal means? Start reading. You have 2 minutes. And once you have read, please tell me done. Right? So is the examiner telling you clearly what you need to do when a question comes on a critical appraisal? Right? So examiner is saying the requirement asking for a critical appraisal is this. So in a question on a critical appraisal, this is what you need to do. The requirement to critically appraise the report means you need to consider each piece of information and assess whether it is correct or incorrect, describing why and how to amend it. As it is clearly stated, you are not required to redraft the report. This is very, very important. Now just look at this and look at the perspective quickly. So examiner is saying in a critical appraisal of the report, you need to consider each piece of information and assess whether it is correct or assess whether it is incorrect. Describing why. Can you look at this word why? Describing why it is incorrect and how to amend it as necessary. So if you pick up an information which is incorrect, if you pick up something in the audit report, if you pick up something in the audit report which is incorrect, right? So you will tell, number one, why it is incorrect, number one. And secondly, you will tell how to amend it as necessary. Is that clear to all of you? Is that what the examiner telling us? I've just made a summary down. So how to amend it as necessary. So if you think something in the report is incorrect, you first need to tell why it is incorrect. And then you need to tell it that because it's incorrect, how to amend it as necessary. You are not required to redraft the extract. So will you write the will you again write the basis of opinion paragraph, or will you write the language of the basis of opinion paragraph, or will you just find the flaws in the basis of opinion paragraph? So not required to redraft the extract means you're not writing the full paragraph again, you're only identifying the flaws. You're only identifying the flaws, right? So is that clear? So that's the literal meaning of the word critical appraisal of the report. Next, last paragraph. Back to the same article. Next paragraph. One of the first thing to note is that the requirement refers to the extract, as it is not a complete report. Comments on missing elements do not answer the question set and would therefore earn no marks. So if a student says there is no signature given in the audit report, will you get any marks? Because examiner is saying you only need to find the flaw within the extract, as it is not a complete report. Comments on the missing element do not answer the question set. So do you need to comment just within the extract or out of the extract? You just need to comment within the extract, right? I hope you all agree with me. So let's put this last thing and wrap up this topic and just give you one good show of how you go about doing this. Because I've covered this critical appraisal in my previous webinar as well. So I would like that you watch that. But I just want to give you a proper guidance so that when you watch the previous webinar, you also can be in a better position to solve this question. Okay, look at this. Just 1 minute, right? Just me keeping formatting. Okay, now one of the first thing to note is that the requirement refers to the extracts. So whatever you're finding is within the extracts, as it is not a complete report, right? As it is not a complete report, comments on the missing elements do not answer the question set and therefore would earn no mark. Is everyone clear on that line? So will you comment on the missing elements which is not in the extracts? Will you get any marks for that? No. So you only need to comment within the extracts of the report, right? So finally, what are you doing? You have 10 marks to gain. Right? You have 10 marks and each critical appraisal is worth 10 marks, is worth 1 mark, is worth 1 mark. So every time you say why it is incorrect and how to amend it, you get 1 mark. So how many marks you need to score? 10. So how many critical appraisals will you do in a question worth 10 marks? A total of 10 critical appraisals, because every critical appraisal is worth 10 marks. So 10 critical appraisals. So that means you need to find how many weaknesses in the audit report? You need to find 10 weaknesses in the audit report. So you'll find the 10 weaknesses. Right? So is that clear, the marking scheme of this question on critical appraisal? Is everyone clear with what you exactly need to do in a critical appraisal question? So you need to know the right report. If you know the right report, you can do the critical appraisal. Right now, for example, if I can just show you some suggestions from the March-June 19 paper, right? Suppose you're reading the March-June 19 paper and you come about you need to focus on the weaknesses, right? Don't look at the strength in the audit report, because I think the more focal point is where the examiner explaining you is why it is incorrect and how to amend it. So examiner is drawing your attention towards finding weaknesses rather than the strengths in the report. Okay, let's look at some of the suggestions. If I take you back to this report question, have we found the first weaknesses that the opinion should come first and the basis should come after? Is that the first flaw in the report you can see on the screen, everyone? So should I write it for you? How you write a paragraph of 1 mark? Right? So this is the report of the Kilmister company, right? We have conducted our audit of the Kilmister company. Okay. The first, suppose you're writing the answer. See, how would I write the answer? I would first write my answer. The audit report of Kilmister company. The audit report of the Kilmister company The audit report of the Kilmister company consists. The audit report of the Kilmister companies shows the basis of opinion para first, followed by the opinion paragraph, which is incorrect, as per the relevant reporting standards. The opinion paragraph should be the first para of the audit report, followed by the basis of opinion paragraph, and you stop here and you get your first 1 mark. Is that clear to everyone? So you just need to find the flaw and you need to tell this is against the relevant reporting standards. And then you need to tell that what should be the correct statement. The opinion para should be first, followed by the basis of opinion paragraph, right? You come to the next point. Let's see if we can find a couple of more and wrap up this answer. You come to the next March, June 19, and you start with it. See the title of the report, Independent Auditor Report to the Shareholder and the Directors. Is that wrong? Do you believe that the title of the report is only to the shareholder, not to the directors? Is that right? So should the report only be referred to the shareholders, not to the directors? So is that the wrong title of the report? Everyone? Right? So should we focus on it? The next one. The title of the audit report, or you can bring the title first. The title of the audit report is inappropriate, is wrong. The title of the audit report is wrong as it is currently addressed to both the shareholders and the directors. It is currently addressed to both the shareholder and the directors. The audit report is only addressed to the shareholders, as shareholders are the principal for the auditor, and are the one who has appointed the auditor. First stop. So the title of the audit report is wrong as it is currently addressed to both. The audit report is only addressed to the shareholder, as the shareholders are the principal for the auditor and are the one who has appointed the auditor. You get 1 mark. So is everyone right? How would you go about taking your 10 marks? You pick up a weakness and you justify why it is a weakness, number 1, and then you tell what is the way to amend it. What should be the amendment? And you get 1 mark. Right? So in this way, how many paragraphs you need to accumulate for the March, June 19 question number 2A? I have accumulated 2 paragraphs for you, right? In total, how many paragraphs you need to accumulate for 10 marks? A total of 10 paragraphs, right? Okay, just one last and I'm exiting from this question. You go back, the same audit report, and when you look at the opinion paragraph, in the opinion paragraph, you can see, in the basis of opinion paragraph, you have seen that they write, we have conducted our audit in accordance with the international standards on auditing, which is fine. Our responsibility under those standards are further described in the auditor responsibility for the audit of the financial section of our report, which is fine. We are independent of the company in accordance with the ethical requirements, which are relevant to the audit of the financial statement. Now, when you say we are independent of the company in accordance with the ethical requirements, you need to refer to the code of conduct. We need to refer to the IESBA code of conduct. Ethical requirements as per what? So you need to inform the ethical requirements in accordance with what? So that is missing here. So you cannot just say the ethical requirements. You will say the ethical requirements in accordance with the IESBA code of conduct. So you need to refer that to a framework. Is that clear to everyone? Are you getting my voice, everyone? right? So can you just write ethical requirement, or do you need to write ethical requirements as per the relevant framework? So look at the next one, the last one for the class. The ethical requirement is a vague statement, is a vague and incorrect statement, and an incorrect statement as it does not justify which of the ethical requirements has been followed, which of the ethical requirements have been followed. That is the framework of ethical requirement is missing. That is, the framework of ethical requirement is missing. The audit report should mention IESBA code of conduct as a proper jargon, How would you know this? How would you know that in the audit report you need to refer to the IESBA code of conduct as a proper jargon? Only when you read the proper report, which I have recommended you to read. So you can be excellent on a critical appraisal if you know the right report. So will you find time reading the right report so the critical appraisals becomes easier for you? It is such an easy question where you can score 100% marks. It is such an easy question where you just need to pick up a weakness and you need to justify why it is a weakness, and you need to tell the amendment. But only a student who is good at the report can do it, right? But if a student has not read the actual report given by the examiner, will you be good in it? Is that clear? So please continue with writing the rest of the answer yourself. This was just a suggestion from the March-June 19. Question number 2A, and this is just a critical appraisal which you will continue off and watch my previous webinars. Is everyone clear on the first topic, critical appraisal of the report? Have I guided you about what is exactly the meaning of it? And is everyone clear how to prepare for this topic and how to go about with this topic? And will you watch my previous webinars, right? Okay, good enough. Come to the next requirement. The next requirement is communication of matters to those charged with governance, which is something which takes place at the completion stage of the audit. Have I recommended you to read an article on communication of matters to those charged with governance, which comes at a completion stage? Right, so please ensure that you take time out and read this article. Let me take it to the next page and start an exercise on this. One of a question has come on this topic, and that's just once in the recent papers. What if it comes next in your exam paper in June 21? So it's better you prepare it. Communication of matters to those charged with governance. This is a topic which has only been tested once in the recent exam papers. Once in recent papers, and that is the March-June 2019. Question number 2B. What if it comes next in your exams, June 2021? So it's better you prepared it and you know exactly this question and you have attempted this question before you enter the exam hall. Communication of matter to those charged with governance. Now, first of all, when you look at this question from the March-June 19 paper, the same question we were looking for, question number 2A, where we had the report, and in the report you need to do the critical appraisal. You go down and you come to the question number 2B. Can all of you see the question number 2B on your screen now? Okay, you see the question number 2B and you scroll down. Okay, now can you see the requirements? The requirement says, from the information provided above, recommend the matters which should be included in the Eddy and Company's report to those charged with governance and explain the reason for their inclusion. What matters will be included in the report to those charged with governance and why? The marks of 15. Let's understand the requirement. The requirement is pretty simple provided you understand it. Let me put the requirement here and let's do a good analysis and the marking scheme, right? So the requirement says, From the information provided above, which is above obviously, recommend. What do you need to do? Recommend. So you need to recommend the matters which should be included in the report to those charged with governance. The matters which should be included in the report. So matters which should be included in the Eddy and Company report. Eddy and Company, the audit firm, right? In the audit firm report to those charged with governance. So what matters will be included in the Eddy and Company reports to those charged with governance, and explain the reason for their inclusion. So is the question clear to all of you? Marks of 15, right? How would you go about it? Now, obviously, you will read the case, and from the case, you will identify the matters which you believe should be communicated to those charged with governance, which you believe should be communicated to those charged with governance, and then explain why they should be included. Why they should be included. Is that clear? Every time you identify a matter and you explain why it should be included, how many marks will you get? 1 mark per matter. That is, identify plus explain why is equal to 1 mark. Explain why to be included. Is everyone clear on this? So read the case, identify the matter, explain why it should be included in the report, or why it should be included in the audit report to the TCWG, and 1 mark per matter, identify and explain why it should be included. Now, which matters generally are included in the report to those charged with governance? Which matters are included in the report to those charged with governance? You go to the article which I've recommended you to read. Have I recommended you to read an article from the website? Go to the website again. The article is there in the handout section. But can you see an article on the website of AAA? The third last article, if I remember rightly. See the third last article from the bottom of the screen? Can you all see the third last article? Auditors report to those charged with governance. Can you see the screen, everyone? Right? So auditors report to those charged with governance. You click on it and you open up the article. Auditors report to those charged with governance. And you go down and you read the article. And you scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. Can you see the list given over here? Matters to be communicated by the examiner. Can all of you see the list here? Matters to be communicated, right? So I'm copying the matters to give you a good idea what matters will you be including. So I copy them and I put them here. So you know the knowledge, right? So let's put the long list here from the article, right? So let me just put them into a proper format for all of you. Okay, can all of you see the examples of the matters which is to be communicated to those charged with governance, right? Will this help you in when you read the case? Should you know the knowledge before you read the case, right? The first matter, the overall approach and scope of the audit, including any limitation on the scope. If there are any limitations on the scope of the audit, will you be communicating that to the management? On the day 4 yesterday, were we attempting a question on evidence where the finance director was trying to put the limitation on the auditor and not providing the password? Do you all remember that? If such a matter comes in and you are attempting a question on communication of matter to those charged with governance, will you communicate this matter that the finance director tried to limit the scope of the audit? So if there are any limitations on the scope of the audit, will you be communicating that to those charged with governance? Is that clear? Next, the accounting policies and any changes to them that could materially affect the financial statement. You will also be communicating to those charged with governance the accounting policies and any changes to them. If you think there is an accounting policy which is wrong and you want the accounting policy to be changed, so will you be communicating to the management the changes needed in the accounting policies in the case study? Number two. Number three, adjustments arising. Will you communicate to the management any adjustments you want to make in the financial statements? Adjustments in the financial statements. So if you want to debit something and credit something as an auditor, so will you communicate management the adjustments in the financial statements required during the course of your audit when you're doing your substantive procedures? Next, any material events or uncertainties which could put a question mark on the going concern status. So if there are any material events or uncertainties which you have found in the audit which you believe would impact the going concern status of the company, will you communicate that to the management? Okay, any disagreements with the management? If you have any disagreements with the management over accounting treatments, will you communicate them to the management as well? Okay, will you communicate to the management any expected modifications to the audit report? So if you want to issue a qualified opinion or if you want to issue an adverse opinion, will you communicate that to the management as well before you issue it? So any expected modification to the audit report, you will also be communicating that to those charged with governance. And finally, material weaknesses in the internal control system. So if you found any material weaknesses in the internal control system, you will also be communicating that to those charged with governance. Is that clear? So was this article productive, giving you examples? So will you remember these examples? Now, when you read the March-June 19 paper, you will see most of the examples in the case study. I think you will see the material weaknesses in the case study. You will see the modifications in the case study. You will see the disagreements in the case study. You will see the adjustments in the case study. You will see the accounting policies and the changes to them in the case study. So when you read the article, you get the knowledge. Now, when you have the knowledge of the matters which are included in the report to those charged with governance, can you do an excellent answer? Tell me. But if you don't know the matters which are included in the report to those charged with governance, how would you write a good answer for March-June 19 question number 2B? So is this article important? Will you read out this article? Everyone? Right? And the final thing from the article, just for a sake of knowledge. All of the above are referred to as findings from the audit and also called the management letter points. So please, if the examiner use a new jargon in the exam paper, management letter points, identify and explain the management letter points you should communicate to those charged with governance. Will you get confused with this terminology? So examiner is saying that the above points are also known as findings from the audit, or they're also known as management letter points. So also please know the jargons. So it's not every time the examiner says communication to those charged with governance, examiner can also tell you this. All of the above referred points, this is a very important note. So should you know that all of the above points are known as the matters to be communicated to those charged with governance, number one, and they're also known as findings from the audit. So if a question comes in the exam paper which asks you identify and explain the findings from the audit, will you get confused? Or are you clear that the findings from the audit is the synonyms of the matters to be communicated to those charged with governance? Okay, what if you get a question in the exam paper, identify and explain the management letter points? You will say, management letter points? We have never been taught the management letter point. So do you know the synonyms now, everyone? They're all the same. So will you get confused if a question asks for such things in exam paper? So is it important to read the article? How many of you have ever read this article before the day 5 of the webinar today? How many of you have read this article before this day 5? Never read it. Okay, Ramsha. Just once, Molly. Okay, so those of you who have not read it, never read it, will you read it? Have you found the importance of this article? On the basis of this, can you solve the question number 2B of March June 19 exams? Okay, that's great. Okay, next, last. Examiner expectations, and we're wrapping up this topic. Examiner expectations for March June 19, question number 2B. So you can solve it in an excellent manner by watching my previous webinars. Do you want to see the examiner expectations? What went wrong with students when they were attempting the question number 2B in the March June 19 exams? Do you want to see what the students did wrong in this question? Okay, let's find the answer. Okay, you go to the examiner report. This question basically came in June 19, not March, because we have a hybrid paper March June 19. But actually, you will find this in the June 19 examiner report. So if you download the June 19 examiner report, you will find the criticism of the examiner in the June 19 examiner report, right? Let me show you this. Okay, can you see this here? Requirement B for 15 marks, required candidates to discuss, along with reasons for discussion, specific matters in the scenario which should be reported to those charged with governance. Can you all see this? So can you just read this paragraph till here, from where I started blue and ending blue? Can you just read it in a minute and see what is the criticism the examiner is telling you? Start reading the paragraph which I've highlighted in blue only. Okay, have all of you read it? Okay, so is the examiner telling what the student did wrong and right in the 15 marks requirement, asking you to identify and explain the matters which should be included in a report to those charged with governance and the reason why? And see what is the examiner telling. It's saying journally, and you continue. Just let me copy this to my Word file so that you have a proper documentation of this criticism and you will not repeat it. Okay, let's look at the examiner weak criticism here. Just give me 1 minute so I can put it in a very good manner in terms of format. So when you get this file and you take a printout, you can enjoy reading it. Okay, this is a criticism of the examiner which you should avoid when you are attempting this question back at home. Okay, let's read the criticism. Generally, candidates identify the matters to be included and used an approach of calculating the materiality of the issue, discussing the relevant accounting treatment, and how the matter had been dealt with incorrectly. Now, for example, when you're reading the case, and in the case, when you are identifying when you're identifying a wrong accounting matter, when you're identifying a wrong accounting matter in the case, which you need to communicate to those charged with governance, which you need to communicate to those charged with governance. So examiner is saying, because you need to communicate a wrong accounting matter to those charged with governance, so for that wrong accounting matter, you need to calculate the materiality first. Calculating the materiality of the issue first, number one, this will give you 1 mark. So if there is a wrong accounting treatment and you want to communicate that to those charged with governance, so you will first calculating the materiality of the issue, discussing the relevant accounting standard. So you will tell the right accounting treatment. You will discuss the relevant accounting standard, that what should have been the right treatment because the management has done the wrong, and how the matter had been dealt with incorrectly. What led to the matter being dealt incorrectly, or what should be the adjustment? You should tell management the adjustment, or you should propose an adjustment to the management. You should propose an adjustment to the management. I'll just show you by writing it. So if you identify a matter which you need to communicate to those charged with governance, and that matter relates with an accounting matter, right? So first of all, in the exam, you will find the materiality of that accounting matter. You will then put the relevant accounting standard, that what should have been the right treatment, and then you will also tell those charged with governance the proposed adjustment needed to make the correction. Is that clear to everyone? So how many marks will you get for this? If you tell the materiality, you will get 1 mark. If you tell the discussing the relevant standard, you get 1 mark. If you propose an adjustment to those charged with governance, you will get 1 mark. So examiner is saying the students were very good in calculating materiality, discussing the relevant accounting treatment, and how the matter had been dealt incorrectly. Full stop. However, candidates were vague. So candidates were vague is a danger line here. Candidates were vague on why the matter should be included in a report to those charged with governance, and continue to answer the question as if they were being asked about the impact on the audit opinion. Is this question asking for impact on audit opinion, or is this question asking you to communicate the matters to those charged with governance? So is it asking for an impact on opinion? No. So examiner is not very happy with students going to the extent of impact on opinion and not telling why the matter should be included in the report. So if you don't write why the matter should be included within the report, will you get your full marks? Should you write why the matter should be included in the report to get full marks? So is the examiner asking you in the question here, reason for their inclusion? So should you tell the reason for their inclusion to get marks? Right? So should I formulate one answer for you from March, June 19, question number 2B, to show you how you gain your 15 marks? Is everyone ready? Okay, let's do a drilling of the answer, right? Let's do a drilling, and so that you continue. Okay, let's do the drilling. Okay, let's go back to the case. Let me show you the case. Okay, can you just read the paragraph 1 and 2 in front of your screen quickly before I show you the rest of the case, so that you also participate in the webinar? Can you read the para B1 and B2 coming in front of your screen quickly and tell me that you have read it? Start it now, ASAP. Okay, in the first paragraph, we're just getting an introduction, and we're getting to know that most of the audit field work is complete. So we are at the completion stage of the audit, and currently the review is going on. So this question is set at the completion stage of the audit, right? And Taylor is a discount food retailer which operates 85 stores internationally. The financial statement recognized a revenue of 247. Will this be helping us in finding the materiality somewhere in the question? A revenue of 247 million and the profit before tax of 14.6 million. So that will be helpful to us when we're finding the materialities, right, in the course of the question. And we have the total assets of 535 million. So all this will help us if we want to comment on the materiality. Then you come to the next paragraph, and in the next paragraph it tells us about after a rapid expansion, 20X9 has been an year in which Taylor has strengthened its existing position within the market and has not acquired any additional stores or business. So the business is going good. The company's draft statement of financial position includes a property portfolio. So you have a property portfolio of 315 million, which is quite a significant if you look at the total assets, of all of which are legally owned by the entity. In the current year, the company has chosen to adopt a policy of revaluing its property portfolio for the first time. So the company has chosen to adopt a policy. Is there a change of accounting policy during the year? The company has chosen to adopt a policy of revaluing its property portfolio for the first time. So is there a change of policy? Is there a change of accounting policy? Okay, fine. There is a change of accounting policy because the company for the first time has adopted a policy of revaluing its property portfolio for the first time. That means before that, they were recorded at cost. Now the management wants to use the fair value model, or the management wants to use the revaluation model. So there is a change of accounting policy. And you go down reading further. Can you read this paragraph for the first time, and can you complete reading it so I give you the answer? Can you read this paragraph quickly after the first time? Everyone? Okay, have you read it? So, company for the first time has adopted a revaluation model, and this is reflected in the draft figures for 20x9. The audit work on the property, plant, and equipment, including the testing of the samples of revaluation, uh, that is being done. Eddy and Company requested at the planning stage that independent external valuation report should be made available to the audit team at the start of the final audit. A number of these documents were not available when requested, and it took 3 weeks for them to be received by the audit team. Is that the first issue you will be highlighting to those charged with governance? That you requested some documents even at the planning stage, and they were not made available to the auditor, and it took 3 weeks for them to be received by the audit team. Is that a delay of evidence the audit team suffered during the course of the audit? And is that an important document, the external valuer report? Because that will help them to understand the property revaluations. So is that the first concern, that they found difficulty in obtaining evidence and there was a delayed in evidence by the management? So is that the first matter you should be communicating? See how you write an answer. Number one, matters to be communicated to TCWG, and you start writing your answer first. First para, the para first. The audit team faced difficulties. The audit team faced difficulties during the audit in the audit teams faced difficulty during the audit in getting information, or in getting getting information on time from the management, despite request being made at planning stage, for access to the external valuer report. So you're telling the problem. The audit team faced difficulties during the audit in getting information on time from the management, despite requests being made at the planning stage for access to the external audit. But why this matter is important, why this matter should be communicated, why this matter should be included? After the full stop, you write this. This is an important matter. This is an important matter because this caused delay. This caused delay in audit fieldwork. This caused delay in audit fieldwork and has disturbed the audit timetable, and the document requested was important to perform timely substantive procedures to ensure that the revaluation of the property portfolio is correct. So was that an important document for all this reason, to ensure that the revaluation of property portfolio is correct? So if there is a delay in the information, do you believe your work schedule must have been affected? So the revaluation of the property portfolio is correct. Full stop. And you get your first 1 mark here. The problem and why it should be included. Is that clear to everyone? How we formulated the first problem and why? Did my answer include the reason why? Or is my answer without the reason why? So the issue and why it should be included. Is that clear? Let's write the second one and then exit from it and you continue. The second one. Okay, the second issue, if I go back to the case I was reading with you, the audit working paper, I'm reading from here, the audit working paper also identify that on a review of the non-current asset register, there were 4 properties with a total carrying amount of 11.1 million. There was 4 properties with a carrying amount of 11.1 million, which had not been revalued and were still recorded at cost. Is that right? Is that wrong? When we revalue, should we revalue the entire class of asset as per IAS 16? Is that a breach of IAS 16 that you have not revalued the entire class of asset? So should I first identify the materiality of $11.1 million, how material that is, right? So, right? So, do you believe 11.1 million reflects the 4 properties which were not revalued and they're still held at a historic cost? Is that the right accounting treatment? No. So can you tell me the $11.1 million? Can you just divide $11.1 million with the total assets? Tell me how much is it in terms of the total assets? The total assets are 535 million. So it's 2.07% of the total assets. That's wonderful answer, Yolanda. 2.07%. Okay, let's go back. See how will I get marks. The second meta. The 4 properties, the 4 properties which were still held at cost is 2.07% of the total assets and thus material to the financial statement. Will I get 1 mark for materiality? Thus material to the financial statements. I get 1 mark straight away here. Full stop, and I continue writing next. When properties are revalued, the entire class of asset, that is all the properties, should be revalued for the sake of consistency. That is, all the properties should be revalued for the sake of consistency of accounting practices. So have I wrote the accounting treatment that the entire class of assets should be revalued, and examiner tells me I get 1 mark here, telling the right accounting treatment to the management. Then I should tell the proposed adjustment. The 4 properties is 2.07%, and the properties means that entire property should be revalued, not minus the 4, full stop. This is an important meta. As this requires adjustment to the financial statement. This requires adjustments to the financial statements. This requires adjustments to the financial statements. This is an important matter as this requires adjustments. This requires adjustments to the financial statement and is the reason why it should be communicated and is the reason why it should be communicated to those charged with governance. Now, I missed my 1 point here, and I'm just writing it down here, full stop. For the sake of accounting practices, it should have consistency. After that, you put a full stop and you write 1 more sentence. Thus, currently, the properties could be understated because 4 of the properties are not revalued. They are still held at cost. So thus currently 4 properties, thus currently properties are understated. Do you agree with this? Right? So thus currently the properties are understated and the revaluation, thus currently the properties could be understated. Full stop. I'll get 1 mark for the adjustment, and this is an important matter as this requires adjustment to the financial statement and is the reason why it should be communicated to those charged with governance. Full stop. So this paragraph is giving me 3 marks. So every time you communicate a matter, you need to tell why this matter should be communicated. Can you see this yellow? Why it should be communicated? Can you see this yellow? This is an important matter because, and that's the reason why it should be communicated. So am I missing on the reason for inclusion? Yes, the 10 marks includes, right, the marks for materiality and standard. This is what the examiner is telling us, right? That the students who calculated materiality, who discussed the right accounting treatment, did gain marks. So if you are communicating a matter, Ramsha, to the management, which is an accounting matter, so you will get marks for materiality, you will get marks for discussing the right accounting treatment, you will get marks for the proposed adjustment. So if there is an accounting matter to be communicated, your marks will accumulate very sharply. Is that clear? So is everyone clear on their way track? Will you be able to complete this answer? Matters should be communicated to those charged with governance. Will you find the way of writing? Have you found the way of writing it? Okay, that's great. So I'm now taking a break. And the reason we're taking a break now at this point is that after the break, I need to change the topic and we will get to a question on going concern because that is also an important question. What sort of a question comes on going concern? What sort of a question comes on going concern? Hamad, this is not a 10 marks question, right? It is a 15 marks question here. So the drafting I have done is for like 1 and 3. I've drafted 4 marks out of 15 and you will continue on the same track, right? So you need to draft an answer for 1, 5, 15 marks, not 10 marks, right? Okay, so right after the break, we'll look at the final aspect of reporting question, which is a question which comes on going concern. And I want to show you what sort of questions comes on going concern in the past paper and how you should be preparing yourself effectively for a question on going concern right after the break. So we'll spend time on going concern. And once wrapping this up, in the last 30 minutes, I think, of the webinar, I'll just be focusing on the tips and techniques to pass the AAA paper in the June 2021 exam. So you have an important remaining time coming off the webinar. So it's like 21:53. That's 9:53 p.m. in Pakistan. So let's take the break up to 10:10 p.m. Right? So we have a break till 10:10 p.m. Pakistan Standard Time, and I'll resume back. So let me put over here. Break till 10:10. So you all come back at the right time. Break till 10:10 p.m. Pakistan time. Can all of you see that? Right. So is a break time. So come back after the break. I hope you had a productive session so far. I tried not to repeat things which are covered in my March 21 webinar and December 20 webinar because after this webinar, you need to watch that. So if I do all the same things which I did in March 21 and December 20, then obviously the purpose of the library created for the students by ACCA will be impaired, right? So when you have a library available, so you can watch the library, right? And you gain something new from the June 21 webinar, right? Is that clear to everyone? I hope you had a productive session today so far, and you will all be joining back at 10:10 p.m. for the remaining session, day 5. So please drop your feedback for how the session was today and how you gained something from the session in the first 1 hour of the session. Okay, I'm off to a break, muting myself. Please drop your feedback for the session. That will be really encouraging. And I'll see you back at 10 p.m. Pakistan time. Thank you. Okay, welcome back everyone. Just confirm me that all of you can hear me so we can start with the last part of the day 5. Okay, thank you for confirming that. So if all of you can hear me, let's resume back where we left prior to the break, and post break I decided that we will continue with going concern. Now for going concern, now you can see my screen. For going concern, we are taking on a December 18 paper, question number 2, and that is the recent question which came on the going concern, at least a recent in terms of being published by ACCA. Now, going concern is an area where you should be very well prepared, and my previous webinars will also give you guidance about that. Now, I would like to discuss particularly the question number 2 from the December 18 paper, which I've just copied on my Microsoft Word file during the break. And I want to show you the actual question in front of your screen. I hope you can see the actual question number 2 in front of your screen now from the December 18 exams. That's where the question is. This is the question right now in front of your screen. The Dale company is a family owned business. So you see this question in front of your screen. You have the statement of financial position given in this question, and you have the statement of comprehensive income given on the next page, the statement of profit and loss account, sorry. And then you have some note numbers. And after the note numbers, the examiner is giving you a 10 marks requirement, which is using the analytical review where appropriate, evaluate the matters which may cast doubt on Delhi company ability to continue as going concern for 10 marks. So we are looking at this first requirement here in picture, which is to evaluate the matters which may cast doubt, and the marks are 10. Look at what we need to do here. I copied this requirement on my Word file using the analytical review where appropriate. So is it mandatory? Is it forcefully that we do analytical review every time? Do you understand the literal meaning of the word where appropriate? So it's not forcefully, right? It's not forcefully. Examiner is saying using the analytical review where appropriate, evaluate the matters which may cast doubt. So you need to evaluate, and you need to evaluate the matters which may cast doubt on the ability of the company to continue as the going concern. Now it's pretty simple. You will read the case shortly, and while you read the case, the first thing is obviously you'll read the case, and when you're reading the case, from the case, you will identify matters which you believe as a student, which you believe may cast doubt on the going concern status of Delhi company, going concern status of the company. So you need to pick up a matter which you believe as a student may cast doubt on the going concern status of the company. Now, when you identify the matter, you will explain why this matter may cast doubt. Why you believe this matter may cast doubt, because you identify the matter, right, in the exam paper. So you need to explain to the examiner why this matter may cast doubt on the going concern status of the company. So again, the important underlying issue is explaining why. Identifying the matter, all students are very good at, but explaining the matter and explaining why this matter may cast doubt is where students are very poor at. So that's an area where I need to be addressing. So this is the sequential steps, right? You should follow when you're attempting a 10 marks question from December 18, question number 2B. Now, using analytical review where appropriate is important. Now, you might find a matter which may cast doubt, and the matter could be something narrative. You can have a narrative matter, right? I hope you understand what narrative means. You can have a narrative matter in the case. So you might find something from a narrative matter. For example, let me show you that. You go to the case December 18 and look at this matter here. Look at the matter number 4 on your screen I'm highlighting. Look at this matter number 4 I highlighted, everyone. A major new competitor has moved into Delhi company market in October 20x8. Is that a threat to Delhi? Will this cast doubt on their going concern status? Because a major, look at the word major, not a minor, a major new competitor. Is this an example of a narrative matter which you can identify from the case study and tell examiner why this may cast doubt on the going concern status of the company? So in the case study, you might find a narrative meta, for example, this, right? But in the case, you might find a meta which is through the analytical procedure. Through the analytical procedure, for example, you may find a meta through a narrative, and you might find a point through the analytical procedure in the case paper. Now, do you believe examiner has given you a lot of financial information in the paper? Examiner has given you the P&L. Examiner has given you the profit and loss, right? Examiner has also given you the balance sheet. So can you look at the balance sheet of this company and you can find the current ratio of the company, because current ratio is very closely connected with a matter which may cast doubt on the going concern status. So do we have the current assets? Yes, we have. We have 9.5 million current assets in 2008. We have 6.9 million current assets in 2007. And we have the current liabilities also. We have the current liabilities of like 6 million in 2008, and we have the current liabilities of 2.9 million in 2007. So can this be an analytical procedure if you calculate the current ratio and you convert the current ratio into a measure which may cast doubt? Can you just quickly calculate the current ratio, everyone, if you can possibly do that? Can you look at the numbers? Total assets here, 9.5 and 6, 6.9 and 2.9 on your screens. Okay. So one student, Kamil, is saying that it's 1.58 for the current year. Okay. And what about the last year? And 2.37 for the last year. Okay. Has there been a significant fall in the current ratio, even though it's above 1? Is there a significant fall? So one student is saying that you can calculate the current ratio, right? You can calculate the current, you can calculate the current ratio. Just give me 1 minute to make the spelling corrections here. You can calculate the current ratio and plus you can comment on it as a matter which may cast doubt. Is that fine? So the matter can be narrative and the matter can be through the analytical procedure where appropriate, right? So one student can find all the matters from the case study which are narrative and score 10 marks. Fine. One student make combination of matters. He made some matters narrative and he made some matters through an analytical procedure. That's the second student. But when you look at an exam question where you have such a big balance sheet and where you have such a big P&L, will you be a good student if you only identify narrative matters and you ignore matters arising from analytical procedures? Tell me. Will you be a good student? Even though I can guarantee you that in this question, you can score all your 10 marks from the narrative matter without doing analytical procedure. You can do that. But will you be a good student if you ignore so much numerical information given in the case paper? No. So will it be good that you find some from analytical procedure and some from narrative? Will that be good approach of finding the matters? Is that clear to everyone? Are you understanding what I wrote in the bullet number 1, 2, 3, 4 just in the last 5 minutes? Is everyone clear with this explanation I've given you in the last 5 minutes? And are you 100% clear on that, right? Okay, that's great. Thank you. Okay, now look at the marking scheme. How would you get marks? If you write a matter and you explain why this matter may cast doubt on the going concern status of the company, how much will you score per matter? When you look at the December 18 marking scheme, which I've copied on the screen during the break, The marking scheme says up to 2 marks for each well-explained going concern indicator. So examiner is saying up to 2 marks for each well-explained point. So for example, you pick up a point, a major new competitor has entered the market, and you explain it well. If you explain this point well, will you be getting 2 marks for this point? Up to 2 marks for each well-explained point. Is that clear, marking scheme? And then the examiner tells you up to 3 marks out of the 10. Out of the 10, up to 3 marks are for calculating ratios and trend. Up to 3 marks for calculating ratios and trends. So you have up to 3 marks for calculating. Can you look at the word calculating of the ratio or calculating the trend? Is the examiner saying commenting on the ratio, or is the examiner saying calculating the ratio? But up to 3 marks for that. Now just let me show you something before I show you the examiner criticism. For example, there is a student who do this question from December 18, right? Suppose you started this answer December 18, question number 2B, and you are writing matters which may cast doubt on going concern status. An examiner is saying up to 3 marks, right, for calculating ratios and 2 marks for a well-explained point, right? Now see what does that marking scheme means. Now there is a student in the exam, right, who goes writing an answer and he says major new competitor as a heading, and then there is a student who puts another heading, current ratio. I want to demonstrate how will you get marks and what does examiner means up to 3 marks for calculating ratios and trends when the examiner is also saying 2 marks for a well-developed point. So when you look at a major new competitor has launched, how would you develop this point fully to get 2 marks? Let me take on the case. The case says what? I need to pick up the statement. This case says a major competitor has moved into the market in October 20x8. And what's the year end of the company? August 20x8. So has this competitor moved after the year end of the company? And will this be impacting the foreseeable future? I hope you know the going concern means the foreseeable future of the company. So will it be impacting the 31st of August 20x9, the foreseeable future? Because the major new competitor has moved in October 20x8. So is it part of the foreseeable definition? Foreseeable future? Right? So let's start getting to the point, right? See how I write it. A major competitor has moved into Dali market. I hope I'm taking the name of the company right. It's Dali, right? Or whatever that is. A major new competitor has moved into Dali market in October 20x8, which may impact on the future sales, and market share of Dale for the foreseeable future and the upcoming year ending for the upcoming year end in August 20x9. So upcoming year end August 20x9. A major new competitor has moved into Dali market in October 20x8, which may impact on the future sales and market share of Dali for the foreseeable future coming up and the upcoming year end in August 20x9. So that will really impact on your market share, and that can really impact on your future sales, because if a major competitor has come in, will the major competitor encroach your market share? The major competitor will encroach the market share from Dali. Is that very obvious? Obviously. So the major competitor will encroach the market share from Dali and will give tough time to the company, which may bring doubt on Dali's going concern. Full stop. So have I developed my point reasonably well, explaining what can some of the potential threats? The potential threats is encroach the market share. The potential threats is impact on the future sales and impact on the market share. So have I spoke of some of the major threats this new competitor will bring to Dali, and those can bring doubts on the future, on the going concern status of Dali? So has this point been well explained? And I get 2 marks for this. But there is a good student sitting in the exam hall, a clever student sitting in the exam hall, and he sees that already, even before the competitor came into the market, can you see from the last year to the current year, the company has already become loss making? The competitor has not yet entered, right? The competitor has entered after the year end. The competitor has entered after the year end, and the company has already become loss making. Even though the revenue of the company is rising. Can you see the revenue of the company rising on the top line? Despite that, at the bottom line, the company is loss making. Now look at the situation. In the next year, when the competitor is there, will there be a pressure on Dali to reduce the selling prices? Will there be a pressure on Dali to reduce the profit margins to compete with the competitor? Do you all agree with me? So in that case, will your losses increase in the upcoming year? Will your losses increase in the upcoming year? Because if a new competitor has come in, and to fight the new competitor, will you reduce your prices? To fight the new competitor, will you lower your margins? To fight the new competitor, will you exercise more expenses on marketing? Will you exercise more expense on marketing? So will that increase the losses in the next year? So there is a good student sitting in the exam hall, and he highlights the point that already there has been a drastic conversion of profit to loss. Drastic conversion of profit and loss. Is that a trend analysis the student is picking up? Will you get marks for this trend analysis when you say the profit has been converted to losses this year? Is that part of the trend analysis, that the profit last year is now the loss? So is that a drastic change of business? Is that a trend analysis? Okay, let's see how you get marks here. The student says, okay, I got 2 marks here, right? I got 2 marks here, and he put a full stop. And he says, the major competitor will encroach the market share and will give tough time to the company, which may bring doubt on the Dali's company's going concern status. Full stop. Currently, full stop. This may worsen the situation of loss this year. This may further worsen the situation. This may further worsen the situation of loss this year, and the losses might increase. The losses might increase if due to competition, Dali has to reduce its margins and selling prices. Dali has to reduce its margin and selling prices. So you're telling examiner that this may further worsen the situation of the loss for the company this year, and the losses might increase in the foreseeable future. If due to competition, Dali has to reduce its margin and selling prices to fight the competition. I hope my point is logical. To fight the competition. Full stop. Now see, have you brought the trend analysis? That you are already loss making this year and the losses might increase? You have utilized an analytical procedure here. Analytical procedure does not only means a ratio analysis. Analytical procedure also means a trend analysis. And the examiner was telling us you will get up to 3 marks for the calculation of the trend and ratios. So Loss is a trend which you cannot calculate. Loss is a trend which is shown. But have you utilized the trend in your answer? Have you utilized the trend of loss in your answer? So for such a long answer you wrote, you're not getting 2 marks. You're getting an extra 1 mark because you found the trend of loss. And you commented on the trend of loss with the point number 1. So this paragraph is worthy of 3 marks now. Up to 3 marks for analytical procedure. Now look at the next point, current ratio. The moment you calculate the current ratio in the next point, you just calculated that, so I will be needing your answer. You will tell the examiner the current ratio in 20x7 was 2.37. Am I right? The current ratio in 20x7 was 2.37, whereas it was 1 point how much? Can you just put that in the chat box quickly? Okay, it's 1.58. Okay, whereas it's 1.58 in 20x8. Will you straight away get 1 mark for calculating the ratio? Will you get straight away 1 mark for calculating the ratio? Yes, straight away 1 mark. So the current ratio in 20x7 was 2.37, whereas it was 1.58 in 20x8. You get your 1 mark. But when you convert this into a doubt, you will get a further 2 marks. So examiner is saying up to 3 marks for the calculation of the trends and the ratios. Now you convert this to further 2 marks, full stop. The current ratio has declined drastically over the last year. And even though it's above 1, but the drastic fall challenge the ability of the company to meet its obligation. Do you believe if this trend continues in the foreseeable future, you might come under 1? You might come under 1 in 2009. The current ratio has declined drastically, right? Has declined drastically over the last year, and even though it's still above 1, but the drastic fall challenged the ability of the company to meet its obligation in the foreseeable future. Full stop. Already the company is facing worsening liquidity position. Due to the fact that the cash balance in worsening liquidity position due to the fact that in 20x7, look at this, due to the fact that in 20x7, look at this. Do you find a cash of 0.6 million in 20x7, all of you? Do you find a cash of 0.6 million in 20x7? Right, everyone? Do you find the company has a cash of 0.6 million in 20x7? And do you find there is a nil cash in 20x7? The cash is nil. Is that a demonstration of a liquidity problem? And the nil cash has now converted to what? Look at the bank overdraft. Do you had a bank overdraft in the last year? You had a bank overdraft this year. So is it demonstrating the liquidity problems have already started? Will you get an extra 1 mark if you demonstrate the trend that last year we had a cash on hand balance, but this time we had a bank overdraft? Will you get an extra 1 mark here? So if you do a very long commentary, it's beneficial. So first of all, you get 1 mark for your ratio. Then you converted that ratio to that this drastic fall may challenge the ability of the company to meet its obligation in the foreseeable future, which may cast doubt on the going concern status. And you get your 2 marks here. Then after the full stop, you say already the company is facing a worsening liquidity position due to the fact that in 20x7 the cash balance 20x7 the company had a cash balance of 0.6 million, which in 20x8 is a nil balance, and has been replaced with an overdraft of $1.8 million. So does that demonstrate a strange picture for the company in terms of its liquidity? And will you be rewarded an extra 1 mark for telling examiner that the cash balance of 0.6 is now a nil balance and has been replaced with an overdraft? Is it a trend analysis? Right? So you get an extra 1 mark here. So when you do a sizable commentary, look at my length of paragraphs. They're not still big. They're just like 3 to 4 sentences long. But when you look at the length of my paragraphs, and I have to score 10 marks, how many marks have I scored out of 10 so far? I almost scored 3 marks in major new competitor, and I'm already scoring almost like 4 marks in my paragraph on current issues by bringing so many points under one heading. So already 7 marks. If I write another 2 headings, I might wrap up my answer. So if you write very good and you know the marking scheme, that for a ratio I will get 1 mark, and for a trend I will get 1 mark, and for the commentary on the doubts I get 2. Now, have I exhausted my 3 marks for analytical procedure, everyone? Examiner was saying up to 3 marks for calculating trends and ratio. So by the point number 2, have I exhausted my marks for analytical procedure? Tell me, have I exhausted my marks for analytical procedure? Because examiner was saying up to 3 marks for analytical procedure, up to 3 marks for AP. So have I exhausted them so far now? So if any student move to the point to the heading number 3, if you write the heading number 3 of your answer, will you get extra marks for AP in heading number 3? If even you do analytical procedure, will you get extra marks for analytical procedure in heading number 3? No, because examiner is saying the marks for AP are maximum 3, whether you utilize them in the first 2 headings or you utilize in the 4 headings. Is everyone clear? So heading number 3, if I write, how much marks will I maximum gain from heading number 3? Tell me. How many maximum marks can I gain from heading number 3? Because my analytical marks have been exhausted. I've already exhausted my analytical procedure marks. So how many marks will I gain here? 2 maximum, 2 marks max. So how many marks will I get now? Total 9. I got 3 marks from major new competitor. I got 4 marks from current issue. So that's 7. I got 2 marks from heading number 3. That's 9. So should I be writing a heading 4 in exam as well to wrap up my answer to 10 marks? Because if I write 2 marks here, I get 9 so far. So should I be writing another one heading for 2 marks to make my points up to 11 marks? So 4 headings and you wrap up a 10 marks answer if you utilize the analytical procedure in a very good manner. But this is one way of giving answer. If you are not utilizing analytical procedures, you might write 5 headings. Agree? If a student is not utilizing analytical procedure, you are writing 5 headings for 10 marks. Or if a student is utilizing only 1 and 2 marks for analytical procedure, you again might be writing 5 headings. So it's up to you whether you want to utilize the trends and ratio or you don't want to. But if you utilize them, that's good, because firstly, they improve the quality of your answer. And secondly, they demonstrate your professionalism as a student in front of the marker checking your paper. So your marker will be very happy to see the numbers in your answer, to see the numbers coming in your answer. Is everyone clear with the marking scheme? Is everyone clear with the marking scheme to go down with this question? And is everyone clear how my 3 marks were exhausted? Is everyone clear how my 3 marks were exhausted? Right? Yes, the cap was for the calculation, right? So I've exhausted my 3 marks, right, for calculation. Sukena, I have exhausted my marks for calculation, right? So if I do another calculation in heading number 3, will I get marks for it? Sukena, I have exhausted my 3 marks, right, for calculations of AP. AP was the calculation, right? AP was the calculation, right? So have I exhausted my AP marks for calculation up to the heading number 2, Sukena? No, I have calculated one ratio, but I have calculated 2 trends. What was the examiner telling, Sukena? I just mentioned that very clearly. Up to 3 marks for the calculation of the ratio and trends. Have I not put trends? See my trend here? Loss this year and the loss might increase in future. Was not that a trend? That the company had a loss and this loss might increase in future? That was a trend. I was telling that the trend would be that the loss will increase. That was a trend analysis. 1 mark. I wrote here 1 mark deliberately. See this? And then there was another trend. The cash balance of 0.6 has become nil. See this last line? I purposely wrote 1 here, Sukena. I hope you can see those 1 marks everywhere. Those 1 demonstrate the trends and ratios. Is that clear? So it's not just for the ratio, it's also for the trend, right? Thank you. Okay, so is this scenario clear to all of you? Going concern, is this question clear on going concern? Will you be able to tackle the further parts of this question yourself? Using the analytical review, evaluate the matters which may cast doubt. Is everyone clear on the marking scheme? Okay, just one last thing before we get to the tips and techniques for your June 21 exams, right? Okay, finally, just want to show you the criticism of the examiner here. I'm reading the criticism. I copied the criticism from the examiner report on my Word file and need to wrap up this so we can start looking at how you should prepare for June 21 exams. I'm reading it, right? Requirement A for 10 marks asked candidates to evaluate the matters which may cast doubt. Full stop. Candidates were directed to analytical review of a cash flow forecast to aid their evaluation, and those who used the qualitative and descriptive parts of the scenario to describe the GC risk indicators with an explanation of how they could impact the future trend score high marks. So candidates who describe those who use the quantitative and descriptive parts of the scenario to describe the GC risk indicator with an explanation of how they might impact the future tended to score high marks. And is that exactly what I did with you? Did I focus on the future, how things will be impacted in future? In my major competitor point and even in my current ratio point, I focused on future. And I was not just looking at the quantitative sides, I was also looking at the descriptive sides given in the paper. So you need to assure that when you're formulating a paragraph, you have both, right? So the first yellow paragraph is very important. Candidates who merely calculated ratio and stated the direction of movement or simply stated that increase in receivable collection period showed a going concern issue attained very few marks. So the candidates who merely calculated the ratio, examiner is saying you didn't score much marks. So it's not just a mere calculation of a ratio. You have to translate the result of the ratio into a going concern indicator. So who merely calculated ratios attained very few marks. That's very important. Full stop, and you come to next. It is important candidates demonstrate their knowledge of how each matter gives rise to an issue for trading as a going concern. So it is important that candidates tell that how each matter impact on the going concern status. That's very important line. Full stop. For example, a fuller explanation would be that increase in the receivable collection period may mean that there are irrecoverable debts which should be written off. So increase in receivable collection period may mean that there are irrecoverable debts which should be written off, increasing losses further, or that slow collection because the receivable collection period is increasing, so slow collection would decrease the liquidity and therefore put pressure on the ability of the company to make the payments when fell due. See how the examiner is explaining you this point here wonderfully. So if you just find the receivable collection period, will that give you marks alone? No. Till the time you convert the receivable collection period into a commentary which may cast doubt on the company's future. So, do you believe that the rising receivable collection period will increase the losses for the company as you need to write off more receivables? And do you believe the rising collection period will put pressure on your liquidity? Do you all agree with the statement of examiner? So this is the way the examiner is guiding you. I hope you believe how productive examiner reports are, and you should read them, right? Last, a technique candidates should employ here would be to ask themselves why as they get to end the sentence, allowing them to add a second sentence demonstrating their understanding. So whenever you are ending a sentence, the candidate should ask themselves why. So examiner is saying the moment you ask yourself why, you will add a second sentence to your answer. That's a good technique, right? So when you're ending a sentence, ask why. If the current ratio has drastically fallen, why? If the receivable collection period has increased, why? And you will be able to write the second sentence. Is that clear to all of you? So will this criticism of examiner, the marking scheme, and the way to read the question, and some sort of a suggested answer given by the tutor, will that help you formulate a good answer on going concern when you look at the previous papers? And will you be watching my previous webinars on reporting, which I guided you during my presentation, everyone? Will you be watching these 3 webinars I recommended you to go through? Because if you don't watch these 3 webinars, do you believe you will be super prepared for audit report? Never. So if you want to be super prepared for audit report, not just the June 20 webinar, sorry, you need to watch the previous 3 webinars here. Then only you can say, I am super prepared for audit report. So will you be watching the 3 previous webinars? Because I've covered the concepts of key audit methods. I've covered the concept of emphasis of a meta paragraph. I've covered the concept of a qualified opinion, adverse opinions, disclaimer of opinions. I've covered the concepts of other information paragraph, all in my previous webinar. So if you want to revise that, and if you want to look at the other types of questions which comes on reporting, please ensure that you watch the previous webinar. Don't just say, okay, the 3 hours of the June 21 webinar and I'll pass my paper. Never. You need to take the support of the previous libraries of the webinars. And I hope you do that. Can you give me assurance on that? Okay, now it's time to wrap up the 5 agendas we had over the 5 days, right? And the other assignments, Aisha, was covered in my last webinar, the March 21, day 4 and day 5, right? Okay, now your questions you were asking is what I am answering in the last 30 minutes, because I already know the frequently asked questions of students in the last 30 minutes of every webinar. So I've already prepared the answers to save my time. Now, I just want to share with you in the last 30 minutes of this webinar, the tips and techniques as you prepare yourself for exams in June 2021. And to save time, I've already written them. So they are saved and the file is shared with you. So you just need to focus, no need to copy anything, right? Okay, should I start the tips? Everyone ready? Please listen carefully. And for the next 15 or 20 minutes, there is no need to ask any questions because most of your questions will be mitigated when I complete this discussion. So is everyone ready to listen to the tips and techniques, how you should prepare for March 2021 exams, right? Okay, let's start the journey. Okay, first of all, there are 4 things I need to focus on. Number 1 is the preparation. Number 2 is meeting the examiner expectation. Number 3 is practice. And number 4 is Excel. Now, when you sit down to prepare for exams, today is the 1st of May, right? 2021. And you have exams on the 7th of June 2021. That means you have more than a month. Psychologically, you have something like 36 days, 36, 35, right? So you have like 36 days, which is very, very good. Now, even if you are very less prepared and you plan your 36 days, you really make a timetable for 36 days. Can you do the AAA paper? Can you pass the AAA paper? The answer to this question is yes. I have seen students who have passed the AAA paper in under 1 month. You have slightly over a month, but all you need is the right timetable, is the right approach, is the right guidance, which you should stick to and pass. So you have ample time to start your preparations. Now, what will you do in terms of your preparation? First of all, when you're preparing yourself for the June 2021 exams, you need to understand that there is a computer-based exam in certain parts of the world, including Pakistan, and in some countries or very few countries of the world still have a pen and paper exam. And in the computer based exams, because in certain markets where there are a number of students, the computer based exam is taking place in 2 different time zones. So for that reason, you will not have one paper of AAA, right? You will have 2 or 3 papers of AAA. One of you might get a different paper, another one of you might get a different paper. In one student paper, you might have an audit risk question, and in another student paper, you might have a business risk question. We even saw that in the March 2021 exams. In the March 2021 exam, the computer-based exam paper was different and the pen and paper exam was different. So when a student asks which topics are important, now that question has become obsolete because of the advent of the computer-based exams. So as a tutor, I will not give you any importance, but I will justify you that you should have a control over core syllabus. Now, all of you know the control over core syllabus. Audit risk and ROM, you should know that. Business risk, you should know that. Audit procedures, you should know that. Audit evidence, you should know that. Ethical and professional issues. Quality control issues. You should know practice management, because practice management has come a number of times in the recent papers. I have covered practice management in my December 20 webinar. Audit report, going concern, communication of matters to those charged with governance. Other assignments. I've covered other assignments in my March 2021 webinar. Due diligence, audit of performance information, review of prospective financial information, and forensic audit. You should know money laundering. You should know professional skepticism. You should know opening balances. You should know using the work of internal auditor, expert, and component auditor. You should know auditor responsibility for fraud, auditor responsibility for laws and regulation. And you should know the new article. You should know the new article which was covered on the day 1 of this webinar, exposure draft on code. Now look at this checklist, 36 days. And you have to make a checklist. Audit risk, ROM, and you write over here, done. Business risk, you write here, done. Audit procedures, you write here, done. Over the next 36 days, the entire checklist should be done. Then you are in a better position to pass the AAA paper. Is that first exercise clear to all of you? So this is control over the core syllabus areas. Is that clear? Should we take the next step? So with the advent of the computer-based exams, don't ask me what are important areas. I used to give important areas, but things have changed now. So I cannot just give you important areas because I might not be doing justice with you as a tutor now. Now I need to tell you that you might get 2 different papers. Your friend gets a different paper, you get a different paper. So will you go with this checklist? Will you assure you have done everything in this checklist and you have taken control? How will you take control? How will you take control? Go down. Student note. watch my previous webinar. If you want to take control, watch my previous webinars. Which? June 21, March 2021, December 20, and March 20, and December 19 as minimum to be good on all core areas. Look at the webinars I'm recommending you to watch on minimum. June 21, March 21, December 20, March 20, December 19 as minimum, so that you are good in all the areas mentioned above. Watch them, right? The June 21 is already on my YouTube channel. The March 21 is already on my YouTube channel. The December 20 is already on my YouTube channel, and the March 20 and the December 19, I'll be uploading it shortly over the next 2 days. So I'll be uploading the March 20 and December 19, and I'll even provide you the link of that on your YouTube, on your WhatsApp group in the next 2 to 3 days. But at least you can start from June, March, and December. They are already available on my YouTube channel. But March 20 and December 19, I'll be uploading them in the next 2 days over my YouTube channel, and will share the link with you, right? Okay, read articles recommended in previous webinars. So you need to read all the articles which I have recommended in the previous webinars, which even in the webinar this time, read them all, plus the ones available on the ACCA website. So you need to read the articles which I have recommended you in June 2021, in March 2021, in December 2020, in March 2020, because as a tutor, my firm belief is that articles is the best way to pass the AAA paper. You must have just realized in this webinar today that when we were discussing the topic, communication to those charged with governance, how important was the article? How important was the article? It was important, right? So you need to understand the underlying importance of articles, and you need to make a habit of reading it. Now, I'll try my best if I can shortlist articles for you over the next 10-15 minutes, but currently it's read articles recommended in previous webinars and the ones available on the ACCA website, and read the recent exposure draft. Did I encourage that on the day one of the webinar? Read recent exposure draft article on the code of conduct. So how would you take control of the syllabus? How would you take control of the syllabus? Watch, read, read. So will that give you a control over the core syllabus area over the next 36 days? Is that clear to everyone? Okay, the next thing. Once you control the syllabus, once you know the syllabus, once you have watched the webinar, once you have read the articles, next is meeting the examiner expectation. If you have just covered the syllabus, I still believe you can fail the AAA paper, because I believe the best way to pass the AAA paper is not alone the control on the syllabus, but is also meeting the examiner expectation. Meeting the examiner expectation. That is also very, very important. How you meet the examiner expectation? You need to read the exam technique articles part 1 to part 5. You need to read them. Exam technique articles on part 1 to part 5. So will you make a habit of reading the exam technique articles part 1 to part 5? You know they are available on the ACCA website, right? Look at this. Exam technique article 1 to 5. Can you all see this exam technique article 1 to 5 on your screen here? The first 5 articles. The first 5 articles here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can you all see that? Part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. Can you all see that? So you need to ensure that you read these technique articles. Technique. They will guide you about the techniques to pass. And that's how you come closer to examiner expectations. and to pass the AAA paper in June 2021. Technique articles, right? 5 techniques article. Next, move back. Examiner reports of recent papers, at least recent 5. You need to read the recent 5 examiner reports for do's and don'ts. I always encourage reading examiner reports. You go to the website, AAA website, right? And in the AAA website, you find the examiner reports. If you don't know where they are, see, this is a AAA website. And in the AAA website, you have the examining team guidance. Can all of you see this examining team guidance here? Right here. Examining team guidance. Click on this and you come to the examiner reports. Can you see over here the examiner reports right here? All of you see this examiner reports, everyone? You click on examiner reports and the examiner reports open. How many you have to read? The latest 5. So which are the latest 5 examiner reports? You have to read the latest 5 examiner reports. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Latest 5 examiner reports. The 5 latest examiner reports. Is that clear to everyone? So please ensure you read the latest 5 examiner reports. For what? Do's and for don'ts, right? Right? Just overlook my writing. Do's and don'ts. So examiner reports, right? Such important. You need to meet the examiner expectation, right? Next, move back. Recent 5 examiner reports. Recent marking scheme guides. Recent marking schemes. Do you know the marking scheme for audit risk? Do you know the marking scheme for risk of material restatement? Do you know the marking scheme for business risk? Even though I've guided them in June 21 and my March 21 and December 20 webinar. So if you watch my 3 recent webinars, you know the marking scheme. But still make a habit of reading marking scheme guides for at least 3 to 4 recent attempts. So 3 to 4 latest attempts, you know the marking scheme. How much marks will I get if I write one procedure? How much marks will I get when I write audit evidence? So you know where are the examiner answers, right? So how many latest examiner answers will you be reading for the marking scheme guide? 3 to 4. Latest 3 to 4, right? Is that clear to everyone? Right? You know where the marking schemes are, right? In the answers, which is your most favorite document, right? So all of you know the answers of the examiner, right? And in the answers of the examiner towards the end, you find the marking scheme guides and the latest 3 to 4 exam settings. Don't look at the very old papers because the marking scheme changes. Try to look at the recent 3-4 papers for the marking scheme, right? Or watch my webinars. When you read the exam technique articles, when you read the reports of the examiner, you will get to know the do's and don'ts, which you need to avoid, what to avoid in the exam paper, what to do in the exam paper. In this way, are you increasing chances of scoring 50 and more than 50 marks? But if you do the mistakes the examiner guides you in the report, will you score 50 marks? If you continue to do the don'ts in your answer, how will you pass the AAA paper? And if you get to know the don'ts after you fail, what's the purpose? If you know the don'ts before you enter the exam hall, that's the purpose. Agree? So do you have time to know the don'ts? Do you still have the time to know the don'ts from my previous webinar, from the examiner reports, from the exam techniques? And if you know the don'ts, will you avoid that? Will you avoid that? And if you avoid that, will you pass? So 36 days to meet the expectations of your examiner. You will pass the AAA paper if you meet the examiner expectation. You will fail the AAA paper if you fail to meet the expectation of your examiner. I always tell my student, reduce the expectation gap with your examiner. Reduce the expectation gap with your examiner. I hope you hold them as the golden words. Reduce the expectation gap with your examiner to pass. Is that clear? Moving on. Next, practice. How would you practice? In terms of practice, first, you need to practice the latest papers. Look at the latest papers. How many? 6. September 18, December 18, March, June 19, September, December 19, March 20, September, December 20. If you are appearing for a computer-based exam, you need to practice on the platform. Have I guided you about the platform in my webinar this time? Have I guided you about the practice platform in my webinar? Have I guided you about the blank workspace in my webinar? So are you all aware of the practice platform, the blank workspace? You know how many questions are available on the practice platform with the specimen exam, a total of 5. Can you practice those 5 questions on the practice platform? Yes. And if you are attempting a question which is not on the practice platform, will you make use of the blank workspace? Definitely. So first, practice the latest paper. How many? 6. Then if you think you want to practice more, as a tutor, if you ask me, I think the first 6 are enough. So first 6 papers are enough if you ask me as a tutor. But students don't get satisfied. So if you think 6 are not enough, then go to the second list. June 18, September, December 17, June 17, and December 16. Another 4 papers. So that makes a total of 10 if you are an unsatisfied student. Another 4. If you think 6 are not enough, for me, 6 are enough. You can still pass the AAA paper. You need to do these papers on the practice platform and the blank workspace if you are appearing for a computer-based exam, and you can do it manually if you are appearing for a pen and paper exam. So if any student has a pen and paper exam, then you can do it manually. But if any student has a computer-based exam, you have to do it on the practice platform and on the blank workspace. Is that clear to everyone? So how many papers to practice? 10. On those giving computer-based exams, some of them are available on the practice platform and some are not. Just to reaffirm, this is the practice platform, right? You log in and you can see the papers available on the practice platform. You go to the audit and assurance, you click on it, you come to the blank workspace. You can utilize the blank workspace if you want to, but you also have the international papers available, ACC official resources, and in the ACC official resources, you have the past exams, 4 past exams, December 18, March, June 19, September 18, and December 20. These are 4 past papers available for practice platform and 1 specimen exam. So you have a total of 5 papers on the practice platform. If you are doing any other papers which are not here, so you can do them on the blank workspace. Is that clear to all students appearing for the computer-based exams? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. You come to the last thing, right? You prepared. You went for the expectations of the examiner. You went for the practice. And the final thing, preparation, expectation, practice, PEP. And you come to the last thing, Excel. Follow and implement the tutor support learnings from the webinar and webinars. That's the most important thing. This webinar and my previous webinar, if you follow the tutor support, if you follow the tutor learnings from the webinar and the webinars, that's the first way you can excel. Don't get distracted. Make a timetable. In the WhatsApp group, the student WhatsApp group, at times there is flood of messages and the students can distract you. Don't get distracted. Make your own timetable. You want to follow a BPB book, follow the BPB book. Don't get distracted with the Kaplan book. You want to follow a Kaplan book, follow the Kaplan book. Don't get distracted with the BPP book. You don't want to follow a book, you want to read the articles, read the articles. Don't get distracted with any one of you telling the BPP and Kaplan book. Don't get distracted, because that is an easiest thing which can be a disastrous for you in the upcoming exam paper. Make your own timetable and don't get distracted with whatever other students are telling you. Make a plan and stick to it. So practice, practice, practice. Control the core syllabus. Meet the examiner expectation. And that's the only way you can be successful in the upcoming exam session. So AAA is a challenging paper, not a difficult paper. And when a paper is challenging, it needs the right support material. It needs the right tips and techniques. It needs the right guidance to pass. AAA is not a difficult paper. AAA is not a difficult paper. It's a challenging paper. And how will you overcome the challenge? Only when you reduce the gap, you reduce the expectation gap with your examiner. So my golden words, which I want to put in inverted commas, reduce the expectation gap with your AAA examiner. And that's the golden word if you want to pass the upcoming exam session in June 2021. And have I guided you the way you can reduce it? Marking schemes, examiner reports, examiner technique articles, webinars, watching the previous ones, refining your answers. That's the best way, right? So any student in the next 30 days, next 36 days, whoever reduce the expectation gap will pass. But any student who fail to reduce it, you will fail. The passing ratio globally is like 32-33%. So that means 70% students don't reduce the gap even after attending the webinars. And 30% students do reduce the gap. I hope, I believe you will be among the 30%. You can lift up the passing rate of AAA paper. You can lift up the passing rate of the AAA paper to 40%, to 45% if you start reducing the gap with your examiner. So if the passing rate is low, you are the one to blame. If the passing rate is low, the students are the one to blame. You can lift up the passing rate. So be optimistic, lift up the passing rate, and you can do that. Okay, one of the last few things I need to answer. There are some questions from students which are interesting to answer. See, first of all, there is a frequently asked question from student which I've addressed in my March 21 webinar. In which order should we do the paper? I have addressed that in March 21 webinar. That first of all, you should read the requirements of the question 1, 2, and 3. And with whichever question you are comfortable with, start that first. Examiner do mention that the students who start attempting the AAA paper with their strongest question first have a better passing rates. Is that clear, everyone? I think this question was raised by Aisha. So in a computer-based exam, first read the requirements of the question number 1, go to the next window, read the requirement of the question number 2, go to the next window, read the requirement of the question number 3, and then decide which question you should start first, which is easier, which you know, and keep the difficult question towards the end. But please ensure that you fill each question within the time management. I've guided about time management in my March 20 webinar, so I'm not repeating it. I hope you watch it. And every question has a stipulated time. You should finish that question within the stipulated time. Believe that overspending time on one question will not help you pass. If you spend overtime on one question in a hope that only one question will help you pass the paper, never. If you spend 2 hours on question number 1, 50 marks, how will you are you that good that you will score that you will score 50 out of 50 in the question number 1? We are not that good, right? So a lot of time when you are overspending on a question, that is a very, very bad strategy. Every question has a time, and within the time, the amount of answer you have completed, stop. Suppose you have completed 85% of your answer within the stipulated time, stop. Start the next question. Now the next question, within the stipulated time, you completed 65% of your answer, stop. Get to the next question. And in the next question, the last one, you completed 70% of the answer within the stipulated time. That is a better student. But if one student completes the question number 1 fully, completes the question number 2 fully, and not attempted the third question at all, left the third question 0, you are in a far more difficult position to pass, because in every question you have an opportunity to score. So if you attempted the first question 85%, you attempted the second question 75%, you attempted the third question 65%, at least you have availed the opportunities in every question to get up to 50. But if you just attempted 1 and 2 and you left the third 0, you would just have 2 opportunities to get 50 marks. The first student have 3 opportunities to get 50 marks. Is that clear, everyone? So I hope this discussion I had with you in the last 2 minutes and 3 minutes about the time management and choosing questions, please watch my March 20 webinar. I've given the time management techniques, the time management solutions, and how you can improve upon your typing speed, because you write a lot. You drag your answers. You write generic, you write hypothetical, you write unnecessary, which is not making sense at all. You need to sync your answer to case. You need to sync your answer to the case study. You need to write relevant answers, not illogical answers. That's the only way you can complete answers within stipulated time, right? So please ensure that in the next 5 minutes, if you can drop the overall feedback of the webinar, how it was in the overall sense in the last 15 hours, that would be good for me to understand. And secondly, everything Rabia I have written on the screen will be shared with you later once the webinar ends. But still, if you want any screen to be watched, that's not possible, right? I'll be sharing this file with you, and you can take a printout of this, right? So one last thing, and I'm ending my webinar, right? I believe that in the last 15 hours, you must have learned something, you must have gained something, you must have got something, right? I believe in the last 15 hours, you must have got something which will add value to your upcoming exams, right? And in the last 15 hours, you must have got some solutions to your problems, which will help you significantly in the upcoming June 21 exams to pass. You need to understand and you need to acknowledge that ACC Pakistan is organizing these webinars as a free of cost for student community, and the outreach by ACC Pakistan of these webinars is phenomenal, and the success stories of these webinars are phenomenal, and I believe you can be part of the success story in the June 21 exams. So if you take the right learnings and right educations from these webinars and you apply them, you implement them, you will be so good in the upcoming exams. I've seen students who just rely on the webinars and pass. I've seen students in the last exam sitting who just relied on the webinar and they went on securing a nationwide position from different countries of the world. So it's up to you what guidance you take from the webinar and to what extent you apply it, right? So I believe you take the right lesson, the right learnings, and the right education from these 15 hours, and you will prepare yourself in an excellent manner over the days to come. 36 days is not a bad time, right? So please ensure that the WhatsApp group I have created for your convenience, I'll keep adding materials to it. If any new thing pops up in the next 36 days, I'll keep you updated for that. If I need to give you a guidance on something, I'll keep giving you guidance on that, and I'll be in touch with you, right? And definitely my well wishes, my best wishes are with all of you, that every one of you pass the June 2021 exam. And I again reaffirm my words that you can improve the pass rate of the AAA paper. So if you do what the tutor is telling you, the passing rate of the AAA can be 40%, can be 42%, just like the other papers. But you need to do it once, and that is possible, right? That is possible. So thank you very much, all of you, for participating in the live webinar. It was wonderful interacting with most of you in this webinar. And it was so good to see you back and back again, coming for every day and watching it live. And it was a wonderful discussion with all of you. And I really learned a lot from you through your questions and through your suggestions and through your problems. That was really, really an eye opener for me as well, right? So I wish you success. Keep in touch over the WhatsApp group. And the WhatsApp group is a wonderful platform for all of you to guide, for guidance, for information, for helping students to pass. And I believe you use the WhatsApp group in the best manner, not in the bad manner, right? So thank you very much. And I'll be in touch with you over the next 36 days and guiding you a lot over how to pass the triple exams. So this is Kashif Kamran, and I am signing off from this Practice to Pass webinar, which was organized by ACCA Pakistan. Today was the 5th and final day, and that is it, right? Have a nice day, all of you. Stay safe, stay effective, keep yourself protected from COVID, and prepare effectively, and ensure that you follow all the SOPs and all the standard operating procedures within your countries for COVID when you appear for exams, and keep everyone protected from it, right? So wish you all success, and wish you all health, and wish you all the best wishes for the upcoming exams. This is your tutor Kashif Kamran signing off from day 5 and the final day of the AAA P2P for June 21 exams being organized by Kashif Kamran. Thank you, goodbye, and Allah Hafiz.